Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition. It is a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios, the only diamond and jewelry partner of the Florida Gators. We got Brent Beaird. We'll have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network, second part of today's program. Celtics stay live last night against the Knicks, and the Timberwolves advance to the Western Conference Finals, and the Florida Panthers take care of the Maple Leafs. And men's Gator golf has advanced to the national championship next week. So congratulations to JC Deacon, Dudley Hart, and that crew playing some good golf right now. Let's go to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. We're joined by our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I'll be doing much better next week because we may have a college football preseason magazine in our hand. The average date for that, for those who've tracked it, is May 23rd. So that gives you a little bit of indication. But look, there's nothing easy with it, the transfer portal of writing a magazine. But we've gotten a few TV schedules this week. We've gotten a little bit more information about the commission, the lawsuit hopefully being settled. So there, and the ACC meetings were in Amelia Island. They finished yesterday. For this time of year, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no question about that. Brent, let's go ahead and jump right into it. There have been some TV games that have been announced with the dates and the times.
Yes, the main week 0 game is Kansas State and Iowa State in Ireland. That same noon game on ESPN. And then as we begin, well, we'll have more of these, but some of the Thursday, now this is Labor Day weekend or Labor Day week, Boise State at South Florida's, Nebraska, Cincinnati, that's a neutral site in Kansas City. That's a 9 p.m. game. And interesting game on Friday, Georgia Tech at Colorado announced 2. Some of the bigger games on Saturday, Syracuse at Tennessee. Fran Brown did a great job there. They won't have their quarterback, though. He is out of eligibility. Syracuse, Tennessee, and Atlanta at noon. Alabama, Florida State is a 3:30 kick on ABC. Oh, boy, I'm sure that will be toasty. LSU at Clemson in a huge game, particularly for LSU for an opener. And then on the 31st, which is Sunday, we've got 2 really pretty good games, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Atlanta, and then Notre Dame at Miami at 7:30 on ABC. And then the Labor Day night game, TCU at North Carolina. I'm sure the over and under for the number of look-ins on the girlfriend. No telling what that will be by then. But Fox has Texas at Ohio State, and then of course Ohio State, Michigan. So we'll get more of the TV schedules over the next few weeks. As a matter of fact, some of those more games will be announced weeks 0 through 3 coming up on Thursday, May the 29th.
Yeah, Gators play on that 30th, and our time against the Long Island Sharks has not been announced, and I got a feeling it's going to be a 6 o'clock game.
Probably.
Because I really would like to watch Alabama, Florida State, and LSU,
Sure.
Clemson. Why can't that needs to be a noon game. I'm just going to call it. They need to be at noon. Brent, what's the deal with why is Nebraska and Cincinnati playing in Kansas City? What's that all about?
It's just the neutral site game stuff as much as anything else.
Hmm.
They and we say this every year, don't we, Shane? That we're having fewer and fewer neutral site games, but the truth of the matter is, there's still a good 3 or 4 every year. And what Shane and I are talking about is what we mean. What we more neutral site games than just Army, Navy, and Texas and Oklahoma. But yes, that we playing in Arrowhead Stadium. I'm obviously, Shane, probably somebody offered a bunch of money, and they decided that would be a fun thing to do. So Cincinnati, Nebraska, on Thursday, August 28th at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and August 30th on Fox, you got Texas at Ohio State. I think that game is noon.
It is.
All right,
It is.
I'm gonna lobby for a 10 a.m. start now against the Long Island Sharks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be breakfast with the Gators,
dang
correct?
right. But at least we'll get some good football games after that. Brent, what's going on with the House and the NCAA?
Well, we're waiting, is what it amounts to. The big deal there is going to be what we hear from the judge. Claudia Wilkins is supposed to give her decision on this. The holdup here is about walk-ons. We don't know what the number is going to be for the walk-ons. The settlement had a proposal to limit football rosters to 105, which means that would be cutting like 20 plus spots designated for walk-on. She did not like that. She wants that changed to have more people included. So that's the thing we're waiting on right now. The lawyers are supposed to be drawing up some language that would change that number. So basically, right now that is it. I mean, she is pretty well signed off on everything else. But the problem is, she said, if we don't get these numbers right, we're going to send it back and it's going to trial. Now, that's the last thing they want. They want this thing settled so the money can start coming in this summer. So that's the thing to watch for is within the next few days as far as what the judge decides to do.
We got a Andy on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel says, did you see that Des Watson has a higher vertical jump than Janai Broome? I did not see that.
Yeah,
I know Janai Broome
yeah.
did not jump. He's not real athletic.
Right.
So I don't know what their vertical is. And then Dan says, did you see the Minecraft schedule released by the Colts? I did not. I wouldn't even know what Minecraft is, Dan, to be quite honest. I think it's a video game, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yes.
I'd have no idea what that's all about. All right. So okay. I don't understand why they want to get rid of walk-ons. I'll never understand that.
I agree.
Makes no sense to me.
No.
What else is going on with NIL and what have you?
Well, the next thing that we're looking at is the situation with a commission. That is Tommy Tuberville, the former Auburn coach, who now is a senator in the state of Alabama, has talked to President Trump about getting a commission going. Nick Saban would be a part of the commission. Now they would be looking at NIL and all the big hot button issues that we're talking about. And obviously a lot of people out there are thinking, well, the last thing we need is Congress being involved in sports. Well, I understand that to a degree, but the issue here is they want Congress to set up some guardrails that really, if you want to boil this down to why Congress would be involved, it would be to keep the NCAA from being sued. And I don't think that's going to happen because no matter what they decide, there are going to be lawsuits. But to make this brief, they are looking at a commission, putting it together, and Nick Saban being on that commission, I think, would be very important because he could really help them come to, I think, some better answers than what they've got now. So that is going on, and we will see where that goes.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it last week. We touched on the 9 SEC games. Any more movement than last week?
No, there won't be until Destin. Destin is coming up. Now, again, the ACC had their meetings this week. Destin and the SEC usually come together around Memorial Day weekend. So that will be coming up, and there will be plenty of discussion for 9 SEC games. Now, if they want to do this, the thing to keep in mind here is the new contract. Now this year, everything's the same, okay? The same with the playoff, 12 teams. Nothing's changing with that. But what is going to change is I think we're going from 12 to 16. And if they do that, that's going to start next year. Now, that's only 4 more teams and 2 more games, basically. But if the SEC is going to 9, logically, you would think that they would decide to do this year so that they would be ready to start into the new contract. Now, Shane, as you know, doing these schedules sometimes is not easy, but we found out in 2020 they could do a schedule of all SEC games, and they did it in about 2 weeks. So nothing's impossible, even with schedule making. Yeah. So if they're going to go to 9, there's got to be some real progress on it this year so they can probably start it maybe as soon as next year and get involved with with this new contract. Because one of the things they found out is that television is willing to pay them more money if they go to a 9th game, and that's what they were waiting on.
The Pouncey twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the mango martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their J.F. Hayden liqueurs. Try those flavors or find your favorite at shopjfhaydens.com. Brent, it's getting to be that time of the year when we have these little polls or listings of the top 10 running backs in the Southeastern Conference heading into the season.
Yeah, you've got a lot of that this time of year. I won't concentrate on very long, but and I give Saturday Down South credit for this. But yeah, everybody has a list this time of year. Going from 10 up, C.J. Baxter of Texas, who was hurt most of last year, but so when he's healthy, he's really good. Rasul Hassan of South Carolina. They've still got to get a waiver for him in order for him to play, so they're waiting on that one. Mississippi State's got a good running back, Davin Booth. By the way, Mississippi State's Florida's homecoming opponent this year. And unfortunately for Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby, Shane, I think there'll be a lot of people's homecoming opponent this year is unfortunate. Yeah. Well, Le'Veon Moss at A&M got hurt early. He's one of the better backs in the league. Ahmad Hardy at Missouri. Another one, Jaden Ott of Oklahoma. If that name sounds odd, he transferred from Cal. This guy's a really good running back, 1,300 yards last year. So he will help Oklahoma. Nate Frazier of Georgia. Jaden Ball of Florida. This is good to see. A lot of respect for Jaden. Caden Durham of LSU, number 2. And then number 1 is Trey Wisner of Texas. So you got 2 backs from Texas in this group. I don't know if any of that really surprises you much, Shane, but that's a guess on some of the better running backs in the league.
Yeah, it's Texas has some dudes. There's no question about that. I like Florida's running back room as well. Brent, the next thing I wanted to discuss with you actually came in on a Titan of our text line from Jimmy. He said, I'd like for you to ask Brent about the Florida win total. A lot of publications have the Gators ranked, in the top 15, top 10 in America, but Vegas only has their win total depending on what outlets you look at 6.5 or 7.5 wins. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what we're seeing. One of the ones that came out yesterday, Circus Sports has got them at 7.5. So, but I mean, look, if you're looking at 7 games, I mean, if things go right, you're also looking at the possibility of 8 or 9. So, and look, one of the things when we go to 16 next year, I don't think it'll be 14. I think we're going to 16. The reality is, with the strength of schedule for the SEC, and this is something to keep in mind. If you're 9-3, you're probably getting to the playoffs. I mean, right now, and the 9-3 would probably keep you out with only 12. But we saw this last year to where there were. I mean, frankly, Shane, remember South Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss. If any of those teams have one more win, they're in. So look, at this point, that's pretty much what we're seeing across the board. Is a little more respect for Florida and what they can do. So I would say 7.5 to 8, kind of what we're seeing. Shane, is that what you're seeing too?
Yes. I just think it's interesting that, a lot of people are high on the Gators, which I think they should be, and these preseason polls that have already come out, some have them at like number 9,
Yes.
some at like 12, some at 15. But then you look at Vegas and it only says, depends on where you look, it's either 7.5 or 6.5 wins. You would think if they have you in the top 10, they would put you at like 8 or
Yep.
9 wins.
True.
So we'll see who's right and who's wrong. This text is from Frank in Chicago. It says, Shane, during your 14-year-old NFL career, were there times when you were not on a team hoping to get on one or to just go seamlessly? Thanks for listening, Frank. Yeah, so a lot of times when you're a free agent, you're sitting on the street, sitting at home, you wait for somebody to call. So yeah, there were later in my career, usually what happens when you're a veteran type guy, guys get hurt or guys don't pan out at mini camps that are going on like right in the next couple of months, and then they sign an older guy to come in. So that happened to me several times, yes. Buck says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, the LSU, Texas, and Georgia games are the only 3 I see that are up in the air, 9 wins minimum, in my opinion. We'll see. Yeah, those three games, those 3 very good football teams for sure.
Yes.
All right, Brent, what's going on with the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Well, as you could see by the numbers, Alabama now is getting a lot more respect. I think after people kind of looked at who they've got coming back, their number is 9.5. As Shane said, you've got Georgia and Texas 9.5, LSU with 8.5, and Tennessee with 8.5. I'm not sure about that. Auburn at 8. So that it makes for a good discussion regardless. But I think there's a valid reason for Alabama at 9.5. They're returning about 9 starters on defense. Their offense will be better than last year because whoever the quarterback's going to be, and I think it will be Ty Simpson, there'll be a more dependable passing game than what they had with Jalen Milroe. And they picked up some guys like Isaiah Horton from Miami that is really going to help them too. Kalen DeBoer there's a golf tournament in Birmingham. It's kind of the Pro-Am type thing that goes on every year, and a lot of the coaches are there. So if you saw a lot on Twitter about coaches being interviewed, that's where they was at the golf tournament. Kalen DeBoer said that Ryan Williams, their wide receiver, has been he got hurt a little bit at the end of spring ball, suffered a little bit of a ding. We don't know what that'll be, but he said he'll be fine and ready to go in the summer. So there's a lot of optimism about this Alabama team.
Yeah. Auburn Tigers, what's going on with them?
Yeah, kind of the same thing that we continue to talk about that you hear everywhere. By the way, they are 8 would be their number. They need to get 8, frankly, because if they don't get 8 wins, a 6-6 is going to put Hugh Freeze's job in jeopardy. So they're looking at 8. They start with Baylor. They've got a couple tackles that they needed badly. Virginia Tech left tackle Xavier Chaplin is going to help them a lot. Also, still, I think it's up in the air about Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. They think a lot of people think he's going to do a good job.
He can't be any worse, Brent.
No, he really can't, can he?
No.
No. And Shane, they lose their best offensive player from last year, Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah. I think they got dudes on the outside though. That's the thing that
They do. They do.
and they got the best receiver out of the portal. So I kind of think it's do or die this year for Auburn. I think Jackson Arnold's a huge upgrade from what they had. Like I said earlier, I've been saying it for months now. I think the 3 most intriguing teams in the SEC to me are the Gators, the Auburn Tigers, and the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Eric Singleton is who you're talking about.
Yes.
The guy from Georgia Tech's a real deal, isn't he?
Yes, he is a very good player, and he will help Auburn for sure. Brent, what about the Gators?
Well, again, there's a lot of optimism about Florida. Scheduling came out. I know you've talked about this. We'll just hit the highlights here. Florida is playing Florida Atlantic on that's next year in the opener. So that and look, I like this when Florida can play some of the state teams. I think that helps everybody out along that line too. They've got they also will host the Campbell Camels, one of the great nicknames of all time. Too. So that's a little bit of the schedule news. We mentioned earlier Mississippi State is going to be the homecoming opponent with that. So, but look, I mean, we won the best. I've seen several pundits talk about Florida having the best offensive line in the league. I don't mean the state. I mean in the league. So with the guys they've got coming back like Jake Slaughter, that's a real possibility. I think this offense is going to be tremendous, frankly. So as we said a minute ago, there's real optimism for Florida.
Yeah, and there's a lot of scheduling. A lot of people are talking about our schedule here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Just because we have people on the schedule does not mean they're going to be on our schedule, especially if we go to 9 conference games.
That's exactly correct. Yes.
I know we have like Notre Dame scheduled in the future. I want to say Colorado. I don't know if we're going to play them, quite honestly. I think it could change. So
it could very much.
Also scheduling and this I don't really like it. I don't hate it, but I wish we'd go home and home. This is the last year for a couple of years that we're going to play in Jacksonville against Georgia.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
We'll be in Tampa and we'll be in Atlanta playing the cocktail party. So, as you mentioned, we're going to be playing Mississippi State or homecoming this year. What's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs?
Yeah, they actually lost a recruit that surprised a lot of people. 5-star offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell, 6'7", 325. By the way, that's the when Tony Baselli played for Jacksonville, the USC product. That's how big Tony was in his playing days. But this was in Oregon, Georgia, and Miami. I think Ohio State was involved with it too. But he went to Miami, which surprised a lot of people. So Georgia does not get everybody, but Georgia's 9.5 predicted wins at this point. So listen, I think they'll be better in a lot of places, particularly the offensive line. They're pretty happy about that. the wide receivers have got to be better. I mean, Shane and I could have played better than they did last year with 30 drops. They did get Noah Thomas from A&M. I thought that was a big pickup. Zachariah Branch from Southern Cal was too. So that I think that's going over well with what they've done in the portal. So Georgia's not quite Georgia yet, but they're getting there.
Let's jump down to the Tennessee Vols. Obviously, we all know about the quarterback trade they had with UCLA. Any news coming out of Knoxville, how they feel about the quarterback?
Well, they think they've got 3 decent quarterbacks. Joey Aguilar coming over from Appalachian State. Now, this guy, I'm curious what you think about this. I mean, he's got some pretty good experience. I know it was at Appalachian State, but he threw for 3,000 yards and 23 touchdowns last season. Now, he had 14 interceptions. That's certainly a problem. But, I mean, he does have some experience. So I think that's something that would help them. They also got Star Thomas, and that's actually his name, Star, running back from Duke. Now, I don't think he'll replace Dylan Sampson, but they think he's a pretty good replacement with that. Now, a lot of people have written this week about the best thing Tennessee's got going for them is their schedule. They get Georgia and Oklahoma at home, Alabama and Florida on the road. They do play Syracuse, and Fran Brown's done a good job with them. But when you look at the Tennessee schedule, that yes, could be a real help for them. But Shane, I'm just telling you, there's going to be transition at quarterback, and Sampson is gone at running back. And to me, the biggest thing is going to be that D line. You remember the Pierce kid and how all that bunch was? Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to the NFL, so there can't help but be a transition in Knoxville.
Yeah, and I'm in the minority here. I think they have a better quarterback now, quite honestly. I look at it differently than most people, I guess. I love big plays, but I want consistency. And I think this kid's way more consistent than Nico. And it may be a blessing in disguise for what happened for Tennessee. And it may stink for us who don't like Tennessee. Time will tell. But I'm with you. The running back is going to hurt them not being there, and some of those defensive players for sure. Brent, give us some nuggets.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. I was at Florida State was in town yesterday. Basketball coach and obviously football coach of Mike Norvell. They're excited about obviously the Alabama coming to town, having the new stadium. Well, I'm saying new stadium, a refurbished stadium. We'll do that. Now, their running game is going to be interesting. They've got Rodell Williams from Alabama, and they've got Gavin Sawchuk from Oklahoma. People may have overlooked that. I thought that was interesting. Thomas Castellanos is a quarterback coming over from Boston College. Dual threat guy. Norvell was pretty high on him. They also like Brock Glenn, their backup guy. They think he's going to do a pretty good job. So now Gus Malzahn is there as the offense coordinator. Gus gave Norvell his first job. So, Shane, as you know, coaches never forget that, do they?
Nope.
So that's something that comes in. So they think they'll be better. I mean, Norvell was asked, "What'd you learn from 2-10?" And he said, "Look, it wasn't what we wanted. We were very, very disappointed, but you can't let that go to waste." So, and I frankly was very impressed with the basketball coach. I know they've got a long way to go right now in basketball. So, but I just kind of wanted to throw that in there after being able to hear Mike Norvell yesterday. He was in Jacksonville. And by the way, for the ACC, the over and unders are out too. Shane, does it surprise you? They've got Notre Dame at 10. We know Notre Dame's not ACC, but they play ACC opponents. Clemson 9.5, Miami 9, Louisville 8.5, SMU 8.5, Georgia Tech 7.5, North Carolina 7.5, and Florida State 7. Any of those numbers surprise you?
Just hearing them, no. I'd have to look at them again. I don't know how good North Carolina will be. And Florida State,
nobody does.
I don't know about Florida State either. So
Correct. Yeah.
But good stuff as always, my friend Brent. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
You too, bud. Always enjoy it. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Quick timeout. Come back. We'll be joined by the SEC Network's Mike Morgan. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Naysayers, setbacks, injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Coach, you know what always impressed me? How you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave Los Linderos Tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Linderos Tequila, smooth enough to drink neat and bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Linderos Tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Linderos.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
International Diamond Center Studios. Ruse Ogre State Farm office is the team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. Back to the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. It's a good friend of the program, Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. What's up, Mike? How you doing, buddy?
Shane, I'm doing well. Good morning to you. Good morning to the illustrious, the prestigious PodUp Nation. and I will see your beach backdrop with the sun. I think that's setting. I can't tell if that's rising or setting.
I don't know either.
And I will raise you my beach backdrop with the waves crashing behind me and a palm tree. We did not coordinate this, folks. This just happened to turn out that way. Just a couple of guys that love the ocean, I guess.
Yeah, I do a different background every day. I try to, at least.
Yeah. By the way, I know JC always comments on your gear. I want that shirt. I will Venmo you top dollar for that shirt at the end.
I don't know if I have this color anymore, but I do have royal blue ones.
That's fine. Yeah, the color is irrelevant to me. It's the message. It's what that signifies. It's college football at its finest.
No doubt about it, and it was a good time for sure. Let's start, Mike. Let's start with this because I got a bunch of text on the Titan and Mark text line. Boogie Flan gonna be a Gator?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going on reports on that one. It certainly seems like Florida is heavily in the mix there. I don't think he got the info that he wanted on the draft. I think he's a immensely talented player. I mean, I thought for a time there when Arkansas was almost unwatchable, Boogie Flan was the one guy who was like, oh, yeah, that's a dude. So there's no question he could come right in and be a major asset. And I talked about this with you shortly after the national championship. Once you did what Todd Golden just did, in the manner that they did it and how quickly that thing has been turned around, everybody's looking at Florida now. Florida's back to being a national brand in college basketball. So the Boogie Flans of the world, Florida's gonna be on the list. The X factor, as you know, Shane, and what we don't know is how much money is involved. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I know people hate hearing that, but honest to goodness, that's the X factor that determines so many of these things. So what is the amount of money left? You know, I heard your last guest talking about we're still waiting on this settlement thing to be finalized. What a lot of programs are doing is, because in effect, now I have my doubts on how much this will be a true salary cap, but in effect, you'll have $20.5 million to spread around. 15 or so goes to football. Most of the rest goes to men's basketball. And within that, you divvy it up, and that's kind of your payroll. But what teams are doing, like, for example, Texas, they've got a payroll of over $30 million on their football team. Well, how are they getting away with that? I thought you said it was 20.5, Mike, for the whole thing, because the deal's not in place yet. So teams are front-loading NIL deals while they can. And I've heard this going on in football and basketball. So can you in essence overpay for a Boogie Flan, knowing if you front load it, it doesn't count against your overall number because the settlement hasn't come down? These are things I never thought we'd be discussing on your show, Shane, but this is the new normal in 2025.
Yeah, and we've all seen the reports on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, about Boogie Flan, and it talks about his agent. Is that our Mike Miller, his agent?
I believe it is. I believe Mike is.
Because Mike was doing the coaching for a little bit with Penny Hardaway.
Yeah.
Got away from that, so I didn't realize he was an agent now. And I've heard some people say it was, but it was never confirmed.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to speculate on that. I know. I actually covered him when he was coaching Memphis with Penny. That didn't last long. I don't believe Mike is coaching anymore, but maybe somebody in the chat box can correct that. So if he's not coaching, Mike is an entrepreneur. He's got a restaurant in Memphis that I've eaten at, like a wing sports bar type place. He's taken all that money and he's kind of just figuring out what he wants to do retirement wise. He still looks like he could go out there and give you 20 on any given night, but I would not be surprised if he went into that arena. There's a number of former players that have gotten into that, agency type business when it comes to college athletes and NIL.
And I know his son, I don't know if he played at Creighton last year or if that was 2 years ago, and I'm not sure where his son is now. But David on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, says that yes, that is him. Okay,
Same
well,
Mike
good for you.
Miller. There you go. That can't hurt.
Nope. Buck's question for you, Mike, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. What evaluation would it take for Condon to come back? I saw where some think he could be an early second round pick. I think he could be a mid first round pick a year from now.
Agreed and agreed. Every draft board I've seen has him early second, late first. And so you can't convince me that if he played another year, he wouldn't go up at least 10 spots because there's still a number of things he needs to prove. He also would be stronger. So he'll be more athletic than he already is, and he's pretty damn athletic for a kid 6'11", a true 6'11", like in socks, not 6'11" in high tops. But his shot is decent. I mean, you can't leave him alone. He will hit threes, but it's not great. So he could definitely refine his game and go up. Whether or not he decides to do that, I just don't know. I mean, there's a number of these guys that are like tweeners in terms of first round versus second round. There was a day and age where you would definitely come back in that situation. Now I don't know. Bottom of the first round, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of it's a guaranteed like $2 million a year. It's pretty good coin if you can get it. But the problem with that is what a lot of these guys don't realize until it's too late is that let's say you're Condon and you wind up getting selected 31st to whomever, and you get the money, and that's nice, but they realize real quickly that you're not going to play at all. So what they do is in effect, they put you in the minors. They put you in the G League. And life's not fun in the G League, Shane. It's just not. It's garbage.
Double A baseball?
Double A baseball. I mean, it's garbage ball. Everybody's trying to get theirs. Nobody cares about winning. You're playing in front of 500 people in, small towns very ordinarily. So I don't know if Alex Condon wants that life if he doesn't have to have it, where if you come back a year and you're ready, you get drafted higher, you make more money, and you don't sniff the G League. You're on an NBA roster, and you're playing minutes every night. That, to me, would seem to be a better option, but it's not me. It's not my family. I don't know his financial situation, so I'm not sure what he's going to do there. But I think another year in a Gator uniform would go a long way.
Our great research staff says Mike Miller now heads the sports agency Let It Fly Management.
Oh, I like the name. Let It Fly. Okay.
Yeah.
You should open up the Fun and Gun agency.
Well, we have Fun and Gun this, Fun and Gun that, but it's kind of how I do some business here and there.
The Fun and Gun quarterback camp with Shane Matthews.
We had the Fun and Gun youth football camp.
Oh, you did? Okay.
For many, many years.
Did not know that.
It got to the point where I got too old and the little kids had no idea who you were. Even the Gator players that I brought back, they had no idea who we are. So it was time to shut it down.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done all that. Mike, the NFL schedules came out. I have not seen any of them. Anything stand out to you? I know people always raise hell about we didn't get any Sunday night games. We're not getting Monday night. Anything stand out from the release of the NFL schedules?
Nah, not really. I mean, the Philly-Dallas game kind of kicks it off, and so often these marquee games, it's not just the best teams, it's the brands. So Dallas is always a brand, and so they're going to be in more primetime games than they probably are entitled to be in. Around here, I'm in Atlanta, I think they're going to get 2 Sunday night, 2 Monday night. So all of a sudden, for a franchise that nobody gave a crap about for a number of years, they really believe they spent 2 first-round picks on the defensive side, which they desperately needed. Michael Penix, this is his chance to show that he can be a top-notch quarterback. It's his job. Kirk Cousins is still here. We don't know what he does other than cash checks, but he's still technically a Falcon because they can't trade him. Nobody wants to take on that salary. Bijan Robinson was one of the most electric running backs in the game. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. This is a big year for Kyle Pitts, Shane. Kyle Pitts was a top 10 pick, and you know this as well as anybody. and I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent. I'm barely answering your question, but you opened it up. Kyle Pitts, when you spend a top 10 pick on a tight end today, he's got to be a game breaker, man, because there's so many elite tight ends in pro football. It's never looked like this before. They're all just like freakazoids, and they truly changed the game. Kyle Pitts hadn't been that guy. He drops a lot of balls. He seems the rumor around here is that the talk around here, I should say, is that he just doesn't seem to love the game. So he needs to prove that. It's a contract year. Does Kyle Pitts want to be the alien that he was in 2020 where no one in college football could defend him? Because he hasn't been that at all in Atlanta. He had the good rookie year, and then I don't know what happened. He has faded into oblivion. So big year for Kyle Pitts in a Falcon uniform. The schedule, I can't get too pumped up about NFL games in mid-May. Shane, they make a huge deal out of it. We don't know who's going to be really good and who's not. They basically do these matchups based on quarterbacks, right? And a lot of those games, they're banking on some of these Pittsburgh games. They're banking on Aaron Rodgers going there, but still hadn't happened. So I don't know what that's going to look like.
Gallo Car Wash is locally owned by UF alum and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. Become a member and see why Gators hate love bugs. All right, on the Titan Amar, no, it's not the text line. This is Facebook Live brought to you by Mello. Brian has a question for you here. He says, Mike, this is an industry question. Why were the CBS guys like Norlander, I don't even know who that is, so anti-Gators during the NCAA tournament? Seems like an anti-Gator bias from lots of media, especially CBS Hoops guys.
Is he talking about in terms of the guys in the draft, or just they weren't high on the team?
I think he's talking about during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
I don't even know who Norlander is.
It's Matt Norlander. I mean, he does a good job. He's a college basketball beat writer, essentially. Okay. You got him, you got Rothstein, you got there's a few of those that kind of they follow it religiously. Rob Douster, Neil Blackman is as good as any of them, and he's a Florida guy who does his own podcast and everything else, and he's now covering the sport nationally. I don't think there's an anti-Gator bias, honestly. I think a lot of the national people just got caught off guard that Florida could be this good this fast. And when I say that, it's on multiple levels. Number one, the time frame. We just got to the point where Florida basketball wasn't that good, right? I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like elite. And they're so used to just covering the same 10 programs that are always contending for Final Fours and national championships. And then they all are plugged into recruiting. And as I've stated many times on this show, I mean, I started talking about it in like January, Shane, how what made that run so special is that there's no McDonald's All-Americans, there's no 5 stars. It's a bunch of kids that were overlooked in the recruiting process, football guys, mid-major guys, overseas guys, and some guy from some small town in Pennsylvania that nobody had ever heard of. These guys became the most dominant team in college basketball, and I think that took a lot of people off guard. You and I were covering it, and I got to call a half a dozen Gator games this year, not to mention last year, so I knew the story, and I could see, like, damn, these guys are good, and they're deep, but they're just like, I don't know who these guys are. So they were late to the party is the best way I could put it. I don't think it's any bias. I think they were just honestly late to the party to understand just how good they are. But let's not forget, on Selection Sunday, everybody and their grandmother picked Florida to win it. I mean, I've never seen a unanimous from Billis to Reese to Jay Williams. They all picked Florida, and usually when that happens, that's the kiss of death. But they went on to win it anyway.
Yeah. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. Mike, what's your take on Pete Rose's reinstatement, and does that mean A-Rod, Bonds, Sosa, and McGuire will all be reinstated upon their deaths?
I think, and you and I might not be alive when this happens, I think there will be a day when they all get in. I just don't know when it is. And Rob Manfred, who I have next to zero respect for as a commissioner, if you're going to do this, do it when he's alive. what are you doing? It's pretty clear you waited. You were on a mission. You were not going to do anything until the man was 6 feet under, and then you were going to do what a lot of people think is the right thing to do. Look, he still has to be voted in, so this is not like a one-way ticket to Cooperstown. But my stance on this, shoot, I used to talk about this on the cheap seats at the WRUF back in the day. That's how old this story is, Shane. My stance has always been, number one, I was convinced he bet on baseball, and he did. And he lied about it for years, and that was stupid on his part. Number two, you ban him from the game, which they did. You never allow him to manage again. He can't be a front office guy. He can't be a manager. He can't be a coach. But you don't ban him from the Hall of Fame because the credentials are there. And not everybody in the Hall of Fame, as we know, is a saint. So that may be an unpopular opinion, but to me, I saw it with my own eyes. Pete Rose was a Hall of Fame player and deserves to be in there. If you want to put a stain on it, you do whatever you got to do. Everybody knows the story. He messed up, but I'm not going to deny the fact that he was a Hall of Fame baseball player.
All right, we got about 2 minutes. This was a big conversation earlier. I got a bunch of texts on the Titan MR text line regarding this. And this is, the Gator win total in football. A lot of the Josh Pates of the world, a lot of these people have the Gators ranked in the top 10, but Vegas, depending on where you look, it's either their win total is 6.5 or 7.5. Your thoughts on that?
If it's 6.5, I'm going over. 7.5, I think, is the sweet spot. Like, do you think with that schedule at Florida is an 8-win plus team? And I think that's right about where the number needs to be. I think if DJ Lagway had a clean bill of health and looked good in the spring game, that number might be 8.5, quite frankly, because Florida's upgraded just about everywhere, right, Shane? I mean,
yeah.
This is the best roster we've seen there in a while. So I think the X factor is a lot of people are still wondering what the heck's going on with Lagway, right? So you play it safe and you go 7.5, because if he goes down or if his shoulder gets dinged in week 1 and he's clearly now the number goes from 7.5 to, I don't know, 6,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's Vegas is pretty good when it comes to these things. Pretty smart. 7.5 sounds right to me. 6.5 seems low.
Yeah. Mike, good stuff as always, my friend. Let everybody know how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, man. JC and Morgan, you mentioned Josh Pate. We just had him on last week. That is what we call evergreen, undated, so you can still tune in. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on everything. Just a lot of ball talk. I mean, we got into just about everything and anything going on with college football. He's been touring, interviewing a lot of coaches, so we got his take on that. The expanded playoff that I know your last guest talked about, we took a deep dive into that. We covered it all with Mr. Pate, so encourage any fans that just need some college football talk around this time of year. Tune in, check it out. JC and Morgan, subscribed, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Good stuff, friend. Appreciate
Always
it.
enjoy it. Thank you, Shane. I'm waiting on that T-shirt. I'll text you my address.
That's Mike Morgan joining us on the Titan MR Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators, joined today to help make Florida victorious. Have a great day. We'll be here tomorrow, folks. Take care.